So, Doctor Who returns after a year-long break with the return of Dr. Mysterio. An exciting Christmas special that sounds like a really cheesy comic book. And that's kind of because it is. The return of Dr. Mysterio is Doctor Who's first dive into the superhero genre. And it's a really interesting, almost experimental episode that doesn't seem too experimental when you consider how popular superheroes are at the moment. The superhero in particular in this episode is the Ghost, played by Justin Chatwin, who stalks the streets of New York fighting crime and generally being a very good superhero. But of course, the Doctor actually knows his secret identity. The Ghost is in fact a man named Grant, who the Doctor accidentally imbued with superpowers when he was a young boy. Now, the Doctor and Nardole must take down the sinister Harmony Shoal company and also sort out Grant's double life as a superhero and also a nanny to the young daughter of Lucy, the love of his life, who also just so happens to be investigating the mysterious Harmony Shoal. Having now seen the return of Dr. Mysterio, and I did get to watch it on Christmas Day, I was just in the States, so I was watching on BBC America, so I've only watched the episode the once. I'm going to rewatch it at some point, but I thought I should get my review out relatively quickly, as I like to do these sort of after the episode, so I can just talk about my first impressions. I really enjoyed the episode. I thought the return of Dr. Mysterio was, it wasn't amazing, but I really enjoyed it. I think it's a really solid Christmas special. It knows what it wants to do. It does it well. And I only really have two major problems with the episode, which I'll go into towards the end. So Peter Capaldi returns as the Doctor, and as expected, he's brilliant. I always enjoy Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. I think he's a fantastic actor, and I think he's been really let down by the writing and the way his Doctor's been treated. Now, I really liked what he was doing in Series 8. I thought that was really good. He had a clear arc, even if sometimes it was a bit off. I think that was them getting used to this new Doctor. It was very forgivable. Then in Series 9, it was so all over the place with who his character was, who Peter Capaldi was playing, what kind of Doctor was he, that it just really frustrated me. And I think his costumes, weirdly enough, his costumes kind of symbolise the different sort of characters he has. But thankfully, in the return of Dr. Mysterio, he has a character, they stick to it, and it's easily the strongest Doctor he's played so far because he has a lot of the humour, but he's still very much Peter Capaldi. He's still this sort of slightly angry Scotsman, which works really well. I think they really struck a balance in this episode, which I really hope they maintain in Series 10, and I really liked his dynamic with Nardole, surprisingly enough. I didn't think Nardole was a terrible choice of companion. I just thought he was a bit of an odd choice. I couldn't quite see what they were going for. Now, thinking about it, looking at what they seem to be doing with Bill, I'm interested to see what this new TARDIS trio is like. I don't know, it could work really well. I think because they're two very different companions, that should be really interesting. But Matt Lucas was very good in the episode. I think some of the humour landed, some of it didn't. It was a bit of a mixed bag. Then again, I'm not a huge Matt Lucas fan, so I'm pretty indifferent to him. I don't hate him, I don't love him, so whatever he does, I think he's got to do something really special, either specially annoying or specially brilliant, to really capture my attention. And he was kind of in the episode. I think a particular joke that didn't land was the restroom joke. Kind of funny because I was in America and dealing with the exact same problem, but it didn't really click. I could see what they were trying to do, and I think it was a scene that definitely should have been cut from the episode, although the previous bit with Lucy in that little scene worked much better. But then again, some of his humour did work quite well. I think the way him and the Doctor bounce off each other, and the Doctor finds Nardole quite annoying at points, kind of like the audience, and Nardole's role in the episode is comic relief companion character, and I think he does that quite well. He doesn't overstay his welcome. I don't think he's needed, but I completely get why he's here. And then of course we have the Ghost himself, Grant, as played by Justin Chatwin. Now, when the episode was announced and Justin Chatwin was announced as being the superhero, they seem to be selling him as a bigger name than I think he is. But apparently he was in Orphan Black. It took me ages to work out who he was in Orphan Black. I really enjoy Orphan Black, by the way, so that's why I'm specifically mentioning Orphan Black. But he is excellent in the episode. He is, I guess because he's very clearly not some British actor pretending to be this sort of American superhero. He's very clearly, I think he's a Canadian actor, and he does it really well, and I think he manages to strike the whole Clark Kent Superman, although he's slightly more Batman-y. I think Justin Chatwin himself compared it to Michael Keaton's Batman, and it's very evident in his performance. And I think the Ghost and Grant have a very clear character, and while they are definitely a riff on the Clark Kent Superman, I think there's enough sort of Doctor Who-y sort of new stuff in there that it feels relatively fresh. I really liked even just the little scene with the Doctor and Grant, you know, at the school, talking about how his superpowers have developed. I thought that was a really nice scene. Now the whole, the Doctor sort of meeting the younger Grant and watching him grow up and almost influencing his life was something that my friend Joe picks up on, and he said it's a bit of a Moffat trope. You know, you've got Danny Pink, Kazran Zarded, characters like that. I personally think the episode did it quite well, and I consider it more as a superhero cliche with stuff like Flash and, you know, Man of Steel, that sort of thing, where it's sort of, you've got the flashbacks telling the backstory of the superhero. But I completely get why someone would think that. I think the Ghost costume was a bit rubbish, if I'm honest. The episode was colour graded really well, so the Ghost costume looks so dark that you couldn't really make out how plasticky it looked. I think in some of the promo pictures it looked really plasticky, and that didn't really lend itself very well to the costume. I think the mask is awful. I think the mask ruins it. That's just me, you know, and it's really nitpicky, I know. You know, I think the mask kind of kills it, and I would almost have rather he didn't have a mask so we could have even more jokes with the Clark Kent Superman thing, because it's something that's brought up in a scene near the beginning of the episode, and the episode treats it sort of weirdly. It's like a joke, but it's not very funny. I'm not holding it against the episode, but it was just a really weird scene, and it didn't quite gel, and I think it was trying to be sort of an on the nose, nudge nudge, wink wink. Didn't quite work. I think one of the things they really tried to capture towards the end of the episode was, you know, that bit at the end of Spider-Man 2 where Spidey goes and saves Mary Jane from the big sort of wall in the warehouse from falling down, and of course he's got his mask off and she realises that Peter is Spider-Man. I think that's what they were trying to do with the spaceship crashing and him holding up the spaceship. I don't think it has the same effect, but then again, Spider-Man 2 is a brilliant film, and I think comparing the two it's slightly difficult. Spider-Man 2 has like 2 movies of build-up towards that moment, and Return of Dr. Mysterio has about 50 minutes. You know, not quite the same. So Charity Wakefield plays Lucy, and she's surprisingly really good. I saw her interviewed on Breakfast shortly before the episode came out, and I sort of found it quite weird comparing her in the episode to her being interviewed. You know, I thought her accent was very good, very believable. I don't know, maybe some Americans are gonna correct me on that one and be like, actually, it was terrible. But I thought she was very good as the character. I think she's definitely a sort of Lois Lane type character. She doesn't fall into the trap of a lot of Steven Moffat female characters whereby they are just sassy. That's their character trait, sassy, maybe a bit flirty. And I think she has a really nice dynamic with the Doctor and with Grant. There's the whole little sort of interrogation scene with the little annoying sort of squeaky toy. She's a character who works out that there's more going on than she's being let on to about, but she's also a character who's aware that she doesn't understand that, and she's okay with that, and I think that's good because I think characters don't need to try and understand everything all the time. Now, my biggest problem with the episode came with the monsters. Harmony Shoal, or whatever they're called, I'm not sure if the species is given an actual name in this episode or in the Husbands of River Song, are really, really weak villains, and while I don't mind them being weak villains too much, there was a bit of a plot hole that really kind of confused me coming out of the episode. Okay, so the creatures are basically brains with eyes going into people's heads. That's really freaky, and the whole little split head thing, that's really cool. Terrible effect. Looks really, really fake. But then again, I think they were kind of censoring it because it was a bit graphic. The idea is sometimes better than the execution, and I think with Doctor Who it's always about the ideas. As long as the script holds up, because I think the script is where it counts in Doctor Who, I think it's okay if it's a slightly dodgy effect, because, you know, Doctor Who is filled with dodgy effects across its 50-year history. So Harmony Shoal puts the brains with the eyes into a person's head so it all sort of lines up and everything. Hence you get that really slightly creepy moment at the end with Dr. Sim where his eyes have gone, and then there's a guard, a unit officer with a little split down his face. Which of course no one's ever going to notice, apparently, so they can invade again. I hope they don't return. Anyway, so they put the brains in. So how is it that when Mr. Brock opens up his head to get the gun out, there is no brain visible? Now you can correct me, but I didn't see one. So that's kind of the plot of the episode contradicting itself. Like, the effect wasn't very good and the brain's not there, or at least not visible. That seems a really bizarre decision to not make it visible. Especially when that's an important plot point. Also, it seems really weird that Mr. Brock doesn't know what his company's doing, so Dr. Sim has to lead him down into the sort of the Harmony Shoal surgery room to point at the brains and get him possessed. My question is, why isn't Mr. Brock, the head of the company, the one who doesn't know what's going on? Surely they should have swapped characters so that it's Mr. Brock who knows what's going on and Dr. Sim who's being led down there to check everything out. You know, maybe he's still the curious one, but that's where he gets like taken over. And then Mr. Brock can threaten the Doctor and Lucy and Nardole. It was just a bit sort of, it doesn't quite make sense. Also, I'd like to point out the ending is a bit rushed. You know, it kind of goes from Grant saves the day, so him and Lucy are now a thing, so the Doctor is sad about River Song, so the Harmony Shoal creatures are going to try again with invading the Earth. Yay. I mean they're not bad, but I don't want to see them come back. I felt like the episode was kind of going somewhere and then sort of rushed it towards the end, and the pacing just sort of dropped to, let's get this all wrapped up. It kind of left the episode on a slightly lower note than it started on. But yeah, overall, I think The Return of Dr. Mysterio was a really good, solid episode. Nothing great, nothing bad. So, with great performances, strong story and mostly good writing, and a real sense of fun and charm, especially in how kind of dodgy some of the flying effects were. The episode really suffers from weak antagonists and a clunky ending, meaning that The Return of Dr. Mysterio gets a 7 out of 10 from me. So yeah, 7 out of 10, that's a really solid episode, and 2 pretty strong Christmas specials in a row. Is this going to be kept up next year for Steven Moffat's last Christmas special and last episode as a whole? Who knows, but Steven Moffat isn't very good with last episodes. So, I hope you all had a very good Christmas. I hope you enjoyed The Return of Dr. Mysterio either just as much as I did or even more, and I'll see you all next time.